you grieving? Or do you know someone who's grieving? Well, welcome to the Grieving Journey podcast. Listen in while we use this safe space to share stories in hopes of touching the hearts, souls, and minds of those who are on the grieving journey.
Welcome back to the Grieving Journey podcast. I'm your host, Angel Morrell, and today I'm sitting down with someone who's well known and deeply respected in the Detroit community. Malcom. He's a talented DJ who not only moves crowds with his music, but who I know will move hearts today as he shares his story of grief, faith, and growth. Malcom's story is such a reminder that grief shows up in different ways, through the loss of loved ones, relationships, even friendships. And what I love most about his perspective is that he's learned healing isn't just about what you've lost, it's about learning to create a new reality for yourself. So, Malcom, welcome to the Grieving Journey podcast. I am so happy to have you here to share your story with us. But before we get into it, how are you doing today?
Well, thank you for having me, for sure. And I'm actually pretty solid. I'm kind of taking things and taking life one day at a time. I think the best thing for me is just to um stay goal centered. Just giving myself objectives to kind of take care of each day, just so I can keep my life organized. And just also like giving myself grace. Not being hard on myself, and just kind of being present. Taking more appreciation in the moment, and just cherishing what I do have, as opposed to focusing and dwelling on what I don't have.
That's good. All things that will just help you to develop into the best version of yourself. So that's awesome to hear. So now that you've shared how you're doing, let's get into your grieving journey. So share your grieving journey with us today.
Well, let's see. I think my grieving journey is kind of ongoing, like it's a work in progress. But just to kind of give a backstory to it, growing up, I didn't really experience a lot of um, death in my family. I never could. I won't say not. I couldn't understand it, but I just it wasn't. I wasn't attached to it. I didn't have the relationships that required me to have such tremendous like emotional pain when it came to loss. Of course, I knew people lived and died. Um, I think maybe my first serious was like, whoa, death, I think was like when Tupac died. And I saw a whole bunch of people were like, oh my gosh, Tupac, Tupac, Tupac. But aside from that, I didn't really have like close friends or family members who were even passing. It wasn't really until I got a little bit older that I think I saw my first up close experience with death, which was my mom's boyfriend passing at the time, and he was murdered, and just to kind of see her emotional, strain and just grieving through that was, eye opening process. But even then, again, it wasn't somebody that I truly saw every day, and I had the most serious attachment to, because I was only maybe 6, 7 at the time, so wasn't something I really could process. Then fast forward some few years later, when an aunt of mine who I, started to really bond, who I didn't really know growing up, she ends up passing from breast cancer. And so then that's like, whoa, and I was like, 13, 14 at the time. And it was disappointing because I was just really excited to get to know her. So now as I'm getting older, I'm starting to get more closer and closer to home in terms of like my immediate family. And then finally, my first experience came with my grandmother, and I was already an adult by then, so it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to process this, but I also didn't have the best relationship with my grandma. But finally, my true whoa, death is real was finally when my mom passed, and that was a situation I wasn't prepared for because it just happened abruptly, and it took a while for me to kind of get over that. My brother then also passed in the pandemic. That was also an experience. And then obviously most recently my dad passed, and that has been the I'll say the full circle moment in terms of where I started in terms of not really being able to understand death and it not hitting me close to home, to now having experienced so many losses in my life and having developed a certain perspective of what death is about, and also being in therapy and learning how to kind of navigate those experiences.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to say I'm definitely sorry to hear of all of the losses that you have experienced. I know you mentioned that at some point it wasn't really hitting you like that, but I know that as we get older and the older we get, the more we start to see our loved ones go before us, then it gets a little bit harder. So thank you for sharing, and definitely you have my condolences.
I
So
appreciate that.
of course, of course. I want to talk about you said it really hit you when your mom passed. Can you kind of elaborate on that? Like, what did that mean for you at that moment? Like, how did you process it?
So it hit me because when it happened abruptly, meaning like it wasn't something like that gradually, she started feeling ill or anything like that. My mom had always had heart complications, like, you know, most of my adult life. Um, but this incident kind of just hit out of nowhere because I got a phone call and it was just like, my phone was blowing up, but I was, working at the time and it was my brother and I wasn't really paying attention. And then finally I saw my dad call back to back. So I'm like, all right, well, let me call my dad. And then finally it's just like, you need to call your brother, your mom's gone. And it's just like, okay, wait a minute. What? What do you mean she's just gone? Like, there was no, hey, this is happening. It was just immediate phone call, your mom's gone. So in that moment, I'm trying to figure out, what do I do? I don't know what to do. I don't even know how to feel in this moment because this is kind of like my first serious like death that I think really, really impacted me, that I really, really felt. And so much as I didn't do anything. I didn't rush out of work, jump on a plane and go to Tennessee and go, and I didn't do any of that. I still went DJ that night. I didn't tell anybody that happened. The only person I told, my supervisor, because I was at work when it happened. So I told her, it's just like, well, if you need to leave right now, like, go ahead. And I was like, I don't know what to do. So I'm going to just finish out the day. Because it was almost the end of the day anyways. And I told my girlfriend at the time, and she was like, "Hey, I'll get on the flight right now from Atlanta. Like, I'm on the way." And I was just like, "Nah, you don't gotta do that." Like, and I don't at the time. I don't know if this was like denial or if I was just the shock, right, of just this is happening. And so, um, I even went and DJ'd that night. Didn't tell a soul, and honestly, I didn't tell anybody it happened until several weeks later. And during that whole time, I was more so just like trying to figure out how to live life, like move on. I was so focused on moving on that I didn't give myself time to grieve, that I didn't really fully process the moment. And I didn't allow myself to feel and just really grieve. It wasn't until several weeks later when we finally had her service, and it kind of just all hit me at once. And the triggering thing was my cousin, because my cousin looks like my mom, and it was just like I miss my mom so much in this moment. Like, I'm talking about, I sat through this entire service. I done got up and spoke to everybody, and it's not until my cousin comes in late and I see her and I see the look on her face of like just pain, of just like, man, I feel for you and I'm here for you, like just that sadness. And that just hit me so hard that I'm like, I felt like I was seeing my mom in that moment of like, son, it's okay to let it out. I'm here. I'm going to be here with you. I may not be here in the physical, but I'm here with you. So, I didn't really know how to navigate it, but eventually over time, having gone to therapy, then I ended up really being able to process it. And even now, some days still, I still kind of like have little, flashbacks or little triggers, back to things, maybe from that specific day or just like things that I missed about her. Um, have I grieved? Yeah. Would I say I'm 100% healed? Most days, yeah. But again, I think grief is just an ongoing thing that you may never fully get over.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I don't think, at least for me, I can say I don't think I'll ever be like 100% okay with my mom not being here. You know what I mean? Like similar to you, my mom transitioned suddenly. She had a heart attack, so
Same with mine. Yeah.
yeah. So I remember the call, and in that moment, like to your point, I was so in shock that I didn't really know what to do. I called one of my friends. She came over and packed my stuff because it was like I was done for it. Now I did hop on a flight that night and go home, but like I was like almost kind of paralyzed, like because it was just so unbelievable to me, you know. So I definitely can understand the shock that comes with it. And also also we hear that men typically compartmentalize, you know,
Mm-hmm.
their grief. So is that something that you would say that you maybe was doing at the time and that's why you were able to continue to work and like not really tell anybody or
Absolutely. I think for me, even now, like with my dad's, most recent passing, I think I I just do a good job of compartmentalizing things because it helps me keep myself in check. I think that there's a time and a place for things, and I never want um emotionally up that element of me that grieving. I don't want that part to come out in the wrong time in the wrong space. Um, and I also not be able to reel it back in, right? Because sometimes, once you open that bottle, it's hard to put the genie back in. So for me in that moment, it's the best way that I'm able to kind of navigate on a daily basis is making sure that I only am able to do that where I have deemed my safe spaces, you know. And maybe part of it on the outside maybe comes off as denial. But internally, because I am learning to process it in my own way, that's how I navigate it. It's not like I'm running from it by no means, but I don't think that I should walk around with a sad look on my face all day, every day because I'm grieving. Life still goes on, bills still got to get paid. Like, you still have to live your life,
Mhm.
and I think that's just kind of where my main outlook has been is that, granted, because my loved one's life has, ended, that doesn't mean my life also immediately stops. I still have to continue forward and live my life the best way I can.
And that's good because when you think about what your loved one would want for you, they would want you to continue to live your life. They wouldn't want you to, sit around moping and be sad. And, how you are impacts the people who are around you every day. So I definitely
Mm-hmm.
think, that's something that's a good outlook to have. I want to talk about you going to therapy. You mentioned that you go to therapy. What moment triggered you to go to therapy? Like, was there something that happened? Like, were you just sitting there one day and was like, I need to go? Like, how did you get there?
Um, I hit a breaking point in life. I think I had reached a low point where, well, let me backtrack. So I tried going to therapy after my mom passed, but I couldn't find the right therapist. And I also didn't feel like I was really engaged in it. And I also felt like I was doing it for other people. I didn't feel like I was doing it for myself to get myself the help that I probably needed. Um, because back then, foolishly, I'm operating with the standpoint of I just gotta keep moving forward. I just gotta keep going. I just gotta go. I just gotta, you know what? Let me just lock in, just tunnel vision, life, and let me just think about work and gigs, and just making myself be the best me and leveling up and all of that. I just put everything else out of my mind. So when it came to really trying to be engaged in therapy, it just wouldn't work. So I go of several, years without doing it. And ironically, the week of the pandemic of things shutting down was with me really starting therapy. And then I sat down with her and she was just like, yeah, I don't think, we'll probably have to go virtual after this session just because the way things are. And I was like, all right. And then I just kind of went in my own that person. So then I was just like, okay, well, it's not really a huge, big priority for me right now. We got the whole world, trying to figure things out. Fast forward to, a few years ago where I finally decided to do it because I hit such a low point in my life, that my partner at the time, she really, really was like, you need to go to therapy. And because I was suffering from depression and anxiety, I would have triggers with, suicidal ideations. There was alcohol abuse. Like I was just spiraling. And if I didn't get a grip, something bad was going to happen to me. And that was where life just kind of like hit me in the face and it was just like, yo, you need to slow down and you probably need to go to therapy. And I unpacked a lot of things. I mean, it was, childhood traumas. It was, the pandemic. It was, identity, crisis, confidence, self-worth, self-love. Like I tackled so many things that I didn't even realize I had buried, even amidst my mom's passing, and as I mentioned before, my brother passing in the pandemic. So I'm happy that I did. I hate the circumstances that pushed me to finally do it, but I'm happy that I did get to that point, and it's also better for the story anyways, right? Um, I'm very blessed to have finally made that choice to finally go to therapy. And I understand for everybody, it may not be as hard. And for some others, it may be harder, but for me, it definitely helped me because it provided me that safe space to really unpack things. And it also provided me a non-biased person who held me accountable, right? Yeah. My therapist gives me a runway to express myself, but she also challenges me and pushes back, like, "Hey, nah, even though you was doing this, you was on some bull, like for real." So, nah, I definitely appreciate everything I've been able to gain in therapy.
Yeah, I love that. I actually had a therapist session today, and what you just said just kind of hit me. My therapist, he challenges me. And I think that's so important when you decide to engage in therapy. I know for me, and I do want to ask you about this too. When I first started going to therapy, well, not when I first started going to therapy, I'll say like the second time that I really became serious about therapy and I was trying to locate a therapist, I went through about 3 of them. And I was like, these not for me. Like, this is not for me. And a lot of times what I've noticed in talking to people is that they'll go through multiple therapists and then they'll give up and they'll be like, nah, I just think therapy isn't for me. What made you keep going? What made you say, even though this one isn't for me, I still know that I need help?
Well, I think for me, I guess I'll kind of say I had a little bit of a cheat sheet. My mom, my dad, and my stepmom are all social workers. So I've kind of always had a therapist in so many ways growing up. Um, so they all work with children, and they always spoke to me in a way that made me aware and believe that, hey, speaking to my parents is the safest bet. There's nothing you can't tell us. We're gonna love you always. We might get mad, but we're gonna always love you. So I always had that foundation. But when it came to me doing that journey of finding a therapist, I was really looking for someone who understood my what a day in the life was like for me, right? So that's me having an awareness of not only me as a young Black man in America, but it is somebody that is in nightlife, right? I need to have someone who understood what it means about going out, or someone who's made some mistakes and has um some crazy life stories, right? I didn't want somebody who was, I come from a great family and 4-year degree and I got a master's and I got a PhD and yep, I do counseling. And it's just like, yeah, that's cool, but I need somebody with some life experience, somebody who can give me proper direction amongst the BS, right? And that was one of the things I loved about my dad is that he would say, he was like, son, I lived on both sides of the street and I've been up and down all the alleyways. And that was kind of what I was looking for in my therapist. I needed somebody who wasn't, out in the streets going crazy, but at least understood the streets, right? And could give me that kind of proper perspective, an educated perspective that gave me a little bit more reassurance in the information and the tools that I was getting from them.
I'm curious to know, how did you find somebody that was in the streets? Because that's not something that's like listed in their credentials. So, the reason I'm asking this is because I am sure that there's a lot of men that could relate to that. Like they can relate to wanting somebody who has experienced some life the way that they have in some way.
Yeah. Let me rephrase it. I don't want to say like she was in the streets, but yeah. But what I was trying to say is that she just has proper life experience, and it wasn't anything I was going to say that I would feel like she looked down on me or judged me for. Is because she could understand it and relate to it, or she had a close, like either a brother or a cousin or a sister or somebody who's had life experience that, just been in the real world that they
but
didn't have.
How did you know? That's what I'm saying.
I didn't know.
Oh,
I didn't know.
okay.
So I didn't know. I didn't know. But it wasn't until after it was the first session. I would say the first 2 sessions with my therapist, she just let me talk. She let me get it all out. And she just took notes and just took notes and took notes and took notes. Didn't really say much. And just said, thanks for sharing. I'll see you next week. Or she'll make a comment on like 1 or 2 things I said and say, here, got a couple of exercises I want you to work on, a couple of documents I want you to read, and come back next week and we'll keep talking. So I'm just first several sessions, I'm just talking, getting it all out. This is what I'm dealing with today, and the job was on this, and my girl was on this, and I'm just venting. But what she was doing was that she was creating a profile for me to understand what type of person I am. What am I going through? What are my triggers? What are the key points of my life that are most important to me? What is my life structure about? Where have I come from? Where's my goals? Where am I planning on going? She was building that profile in me so she could learn how to kind of approach our sessions. And then finally, once I had gotten it all out and she wanted to she had to basically say, hey, I was listening to you. I know what you're going through, type of thing. Because I developed a profile to where I was just looking for someone to listen to me. I felt like I didn't have anywhere in my life to kind of talk about my pain as far as grief or what I was dealing with on my everyday sense. And once we finally got that out the way, it was just like, well, back in my day, I was over here and I know about this place. And oh, yeah, you DJ at Floods and I know about Floods and I was hanging at Floods. And back in my day, we was doing this. And I'm like, how you know about? And how you know about? She was like, yo, yeah, and you be coming up on my social media sometimes. I don't follow you. I don't tap on none of the stuff or engage. And she was like, but I see you up and down. So like, once I got that kind of like, oh, wow, okay, this isn't just someone with a degree sitting on the other side of me, just listening to me talk. This is a person who is really engaged and listening and really invested in my well-being. And once she, also gave me insight into her personal life or relationships, we was locked in because I really had somebody who understood me and understood maybe the frustrations of life I had at that point.
Yeah, you trusted her. She was a safe space. She is a safe space. So I love that for you. And I think, again, that's important for people listening. Like when you are looking for a therapist, you do need to find someone who makes you feel safe. Because if you don't have someone that makes you feel safe, you're not going to be able to complete what am I trying to say? You're not going to be able to grow. You're not going to be able to grow. You're going to remain stagnant if you don't find someone who, gives you that space to be an outlet, but also makes you feel safe in that. So thank you for sharing that. Something that you talked about before is the fact that you are in a nightlife. And in that environment, it's not a space where you typically hear people talk about mental health. So I want to allow you the opportunity to kind of share, like, with everything that you've been through, has the way that you move when it comes to like mental health and in your space, has that changed?
Yeah. Um, I, I definitely, um, I've definitely taken a step back. Um, I can admit immediately, even after most recently with my dad passing, um, I can be honest with myself and say I was making some bad choices. I was just out here. I was hanging out 5 in the morning. 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning. I'm at the day party, the night party, and the after hours. Like all the while helping my stepmom playing my dad's, arrangements. And that was just because I was more so at a space of I didn't want to go be alone, right? I didn't want to have to sit with my thoughts and experience that life of the when the lights go off, when the club closed down, and it's everybody going home. All right, man, I'll see you later. And now it's like me, and I'm just like, oh, I got to go back to everything I was just not wanting to be home sitting in, right? So I had to kind of reel myself back in. And finally, it took just like once, my dad's funeral happened, and I was talking to my best friend, and she was just like, you have to create a new normal for yourself. And I was like, dang, I do. And I was just like, all right, I've been having fun these last 3 weeks, but what is it doing for my spirit? What is it doing for my mental health?
Mm-hmm.
I'm reverting, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it's fun. Everybody want to kick it and turn up. But where were some of those people at my dad's service? Where are the people that hit you and just be like, yo, you all right, man? Checking in, need anything?
Mm-hmm.
Home going crazy when they see you partying and turning up. But where's that same sentiment after everything dies down? Even after the funeral, even now in this moment, where are those people that wanted to kick it with me that also are in caring about my well-being? And what I had to learn for me in the nightlife is that friends and family are far and few between in this nightlife industry. People are out for self. They are in this thing to make money, to take care of them and their family, and that's it. So the moment I stopped looking for that support group in these spaces, I got better. And my vision in terms of where I saw myself going got more clear. You cut out the distractions, you cut out unnecessary relationships, the need to be everywhere and be seen for the sake of networking and maintaining brand exposure and all of that. That stuff stopped mattering to me. Because honestly, I understand that I am here to do a service and do a job. Now, yes, I can still socialize, but I'm not going to do it to the level that I was doing before, because it doesn't call for that. I think that there is ways that you can have a successful brand and business and still make money and not be at every single thing, right? Because also it get costly going out.
Yeah.
So for me, I just reached a better space of stability. And also I've gotten back into my faith too. I just started going to church on Sundays, and that has also really helped me in terms of giving me that balance, right? You know, working all week and working on my brand all week, and you out kicking it, but you got to have something that restores the soul. You know,
That's good.
you gotta pour back into yourself, you know?
Hmm.
And that's what I've been doing. For me, you know, is church, is cooking, you know, I'm just finding better ways to use my time and be at more of a peace with self. And understanding that, you know, the camaraderie that nightlife brings isn't going to always be there, especially when you need it.
That's so good. And like anybody that's heard this podcast, y'all done heard me say this multiple times that you cannot pour from an empty cup. So I love the
Mm-hmm.
fact that you talked about like pouring into you. And I kind of want you to elaborate on your relationship with God and how it has evolved through all of this and what role has faith played in helping you to keep moving forward.
So for me, I honestly didn't really have a huge relationship um with God growing up. Personally, let me say for personally. My mom, devout Christian. My mom was in the church, always praying for us. Hey, you know, son, your name is in the book. And I would be like, what book are you talking about? Just know it's in the book. I've already prayed for you. Your name is in the book. I got olive oil put on my head like 7, 8 times growing up, 9 times. I mean, it just, so I grew up in that as a child. But in terms of my individual relationship with God, my parents always allowed me to develop that on my own. You know, my dad was Muslim, but he grew up, you know, Catholic, you know, and he always told me, hey, son, you know, just do your own research. I'm gonna let you choose, you follow whatever you want to preach, but just be knowledgeable enough to also talk about what it is that you believe in, but also educate yourself on the other, you know, religions and practices. And my mom believed the same as well. And, you know, I would pray, but I would just be like, God, and God. I would always say God. I would always say God. And even now I kind of still say God because I, you know, my journey is ongoing. But I've always appreciated the sense of faith and community and that I've seen in Christianity as of late. You know, just, you know, even just yesterday, just, hey, come to the altar. If you need pray over you, you know, come on and just whatever you got going on in your life. Person don't know you from Nathaniel, don't know you, but is willing to come and speak all of this love and light and peace and positivity into you to help you overcome it, whatever you're going through. Like that has really helped me. You know, now I haven't been prayed over, but just me even being in the room and just feeling the community and the love and just the joy, the praise and the worship has really helped me, you know. Um, and I'm not even like trying to like push it on people to be like, yo, you gotta come, you gotta come. But I'm just saying what has been so great for me has worked. And I'm blessed, right? I think that to be here where I am, I'm blessed. I've been allowing God to use me in whatever purpose, you know, he sees fit, whether it's me sharing my journey on a pod or, you know, me encouraging other people to take care of their mental health and just being a support system for others as I see them, you know, because it seems like nowadays people are losing parents left and right, you know, and so it's
Hmm.
like anytime I see that, um, I'm empathizing and just extending like, yo, you ain't got to navigate this alone. My line is open. Like I want to be more of that source of people who do feel like they don't have support. You know, I want to
Hmm.
be like that person you can reach out to. So like for me, as far as faith, it's it's I'm not gonna say it's the driving force of how I've been able to navigate the grief, but it's definitely just adding that additional foundation of knowing, you know, how to navigate the space.
That's good. When my mother passed, I always share the story of like prior to her passing, she would be the first person that I would call when I was going through anything, like whether it was something good, something bad, got a new job, whatever the case may be. She would be the first person I would call, especially when it was something bad. And when I would call her, she would pray about it, and then I would pray about it. And then when she passed, I could no longer call her. So that made me immediately go to God and pray about it. And since she's passed, like my relationship has definitely evolved. And it, for me, it's not just about going to church. I think going to church is important because I think you need to be around like-minded individuals and people who believe what you believe, but it is definitely more so about the relationship that you have with him and knowing that he's protecting you, he's guiding you, like everything that is all the positive things that are coming your way are coming from, him. So I think that is so important and happy to hear that your relationship has evolved. And I pray that it continues to evolve as you're working on yourself. Something else that you mentioned earlier is the fact that you are really into setting goals and that helps you along the journey as well. And I really like that. I like that the balance of faith and structure. What made you start doing that and how has that helped you to get through your healing process?
Um, so setting goals for me has always it's just giving me guidance because it gives me purpose and motivation to keep going, right? And through my therapist, however, what I've learned is to, in grief, we always think, and just in life in general, we always look at the big picture all the time. We got to go out and we got to make more money and go get a bigger house, and I got to get a better car, and I got to pay all of this, and we so consume ourselves with the dream of having it all, everything that we want, that we miss out on understanding that there's individual things to the overall dream that we envision for ourselves. And so for me, what I've started doing is focusing on smaller goals, because if you focus on smaller daily goals, that gives you a better mindset of your dream being achievable,
Also gives you confidence.
Right. And that's essentially what I'm saying. Yeah, it gives you that confidence because you're just slowly but surely getting there. Right.
Yeah.
And those small wins eventually add up to the big win because you're getting those reps in to prepare you for that big win. Right. If it's just something simple as me doing laundry and getting the clothes organized and put away, slowly but surely, it declutters my space. Decluttering my space, eventually I rearrange my space. Rearranging my space then can be a refresher for my mental health or the energy and the vibes of the crib, or you maybe find stuff you thought was lost and you didn't realize it. There's a lot of different things that's a snowball effect from those small wins. And so by me focusing more on the small wins, it's really, really kept me going, and it gets me excited for each day, right? I don't dread, I got to go and do this again. And 3 weeks from now, and the gig I got to do is all the way at the end of the week. I ain't going to be able to kick it and turn up till then. And you're dreading how far away something that you want is, as opposed to, again, focusing on the smaller things that can keep you locked in the meantime. Yo, it's Saturday. Cool. Today, I'm going to learn a new recipe on YouTube and I'm going to make that for dinner, right? So now instead of me thinking so much about Saturday, I'm thinking about here and now and today in the present of what I'm going to do later today. That is how I keep myself grounded, because, again, I'm focusing more on living in the present as opposed to continuously trying to put my mind down the road, because I don't know what can happen between now and then. Something dramatically can change that alters my entire life to where that thing I was waiting on for Saturday might not even be important anymore. So by me focusing on the small goals, that's really just kept me grounded, and it keeps my mental health at a balanced space, of not being hard on myself about not getting something done. I think more about, hey, I have tomorrow to get something done, as opposed to, oh man, I'm all set back for another 2-3 weeks on something, and not even realizing that it just might be a slight change to my day tomorrow. Okay, cool. I may have to get up an hour earlier, or I may have to stay up a little bit tomorrow night. Okay, it's okay. I have time. Life, I understand people say, is short. Short is in this grand scheme of the world been around for millions of years. Yes, life is short in that sense. But I'm blessed to have a father that lived till he was 81. 81 is a long, long time. So I just, again, I give myself grace, and I just look for more of the smaller things I can accomplish each day than larger, massive life goals all the time.
You said so much. The power of now is so powerful. Like I used to be this person, and I still have to catch myself sometimes, like where I would be this, like, I wouldn't pay attention to the now. I would more so be looking at the big picture. But me looking at that big picture was so stressful because I wasn't acknowledging the small wins that I was accomplishing in the moment. So to just focus on what's happening now in your life, I always say, like, if you really sit there and think about what's happening right now in this moment, life is good. But when you start thinking about all the other elements, it's like that's when you kind of throw yourself off. So I love that you talked about that. Now, you talked about it being okay to grieve and giving yourself grace. And, I love hearing that, especially coming from a man, because you typically hear men are raised to tough it out, don't cry, don't show any emotion. Has it been hard for you to be open about your grief because of that? And if so, what helped you to break through that mindset?
Oh, I be crying. Ooh, I be crying. Boy, I be
Crying
crying.
is good. Crying
I
is a
be
release.
crying. Man, listen, I be crying. Even if I gotta go cut an onion intentionally to cry, I'm crying because you have to get it out.
Mhm.
You have to get it out because it only gets worse the longer you foster it in, right? Because also letting it out lets you know it's real. It gives it life. It gives it credence, but but not in the sense of, oh my gosh, why is it that I got to keep reliving this pain and this death? It's not so much as that, but it's a part of the process of accepting the death, understanding that it is here and now. It is a part of your life, but to more so make use of your life moving forward. It means to cherish the moments that we have, to go to that movie you said you was going to watch, or go visit that place, or, I want to go learn how to swim. It means to take more advantage of the opportunities that we do have versus dwelling on what we don't have and what we've lost, right? We miss out on what we do have because we're focused on what we don't have. And a lot of things,
some gems.
I'm saying that's literally what I've just been focused on is that instead of me focusing on what I don't have, I just really been at a great space enjoying what I do have. The people in my life that aren't here, that I wish were here, whether it be that they transition or just I don't have the relationship with them anymore, I can't worry about that no more. I cannot. I can't worry about who not showing up for a gig if I invite them. I can't worry about I'm making this food and nobody want to try it. Oh, okay. Well, more for me. I love making my favorite things. By me changing my perspective on the outcomes of certain things in my life, it brings me more peace. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm perfect, that I haven't maybe had a few, relapses in terms of those old moments I had where it's like, dang, I just feel like such and such don't rock with me, or dang, they can't hit me back, or dang, they seen I'm going through something. They ain't reached out. Like, I'm not above that. That's a human emotion. It's a human reaction. But as I take a step back and I just say, you know what? Cool. It is what it is. And you move on, because you're going to spend more time holding on to that feeling in that moment and dreading that person not being there versus your mind state of peace and happiness, focusing on going after the things that you want and embracing the people that are there.
I swear you was in my therapy session earlier today. I swear you was like a fly on the wall because these were some of the conversations we were having. Like I literally was talking about too, like since losing my mom, my perspective on a lot of things have changed. And like there's so many things that I just don't care about the same way I did before. Like, and it's not like it's not one of those, it's not like a negative thing. It actually is like what helps me to manage my relationships now and like just look at things differently. Something, and I love stealing stuff from people that be on the podcast. You said letting it out lets you know it's real. That was so profound to me. Like, I mean, obviously, you know that when you are releasing that it is an act of how much you love or care or miss someone. We know that, but that letting it out lets you know it's real. I'm definitely, you gonna hear me say that again on the podcast. That was that was a good one. That was a good one. As we get close to wrapping up, I want to kind of bring up something that you shared with me before, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but before you did tell me that you were in a previous relationship that was also a part of your grief journey. And I know that sometimes letting go isn't about the person, but it's about the connection that was represented. What did that chapter teach you about yourself or even healing in general?
It taught me a lot of things. But most importantly, it taught me that you have to be focused on the same goals, right? I think that you have to have strong communication, because that creates that level of trust. It creates direction in terms of where you want to go as far as the relationship. And also, it allows your mate to be your mate, right? I think that in the communication, if you don't communicate your wants, needs, and desires in the best way, then your mate can't show up for you in those ways that you would like. And I think for me at that time, because of the things that I was dealing with from a mental standpoint, emotional standpoint, and even a physical standpoint, I wasn't communicating in the best way that allowed my partner to be there for me. And looking back on it now and the growth and the healing, the things that I've done now, I understand how when someone is, dealing with a lot of things, how that affects that other person. And it's important for us as the grieving party to understand that our grief also affects other people, right? Our grief impacts those people around us who love and care about us in ways that we may not be even able to see because we are drowning in sadness and anxiety and depression and people having suicidal ideations. Like, it's tough to see that. It's tough to allow people in when they're trying to be there and help you. So for me, that's kind of what just that situation showed me, is that we just have to be better at communicating, and we have to, really set the proper foundation for our mate and ourselves to be the best we can be when we're, trying to navigate those situations of grief.
Yeah, that's so true. Communication is key in all relationships, whether it be romantic, friendships. In order for people to be what you need them to be in your life, you have to be willing to communicate that. So thank you for sharing that. As we are getting close to a close, is there anything that you would like to share with our listeners, something that you may not have touched on?
Um, I slightly touched on it, but I really want to emphasize that moving forward, um, I really want to help more people, particularly Black men. I really want to help more people with the journey of mental health, right? Understanding that it's okay to get help. It's okay for something to be wrong, right? it's a human reaction to experiences. Trauma is real. Undoing, um, generational curses, all kinds of things like that. It's okay to navigate that and get the help for it. It's not like there's just something wrong with you. It's just sometimes maybe behavior that we need to unlearn. And it's just a process and a journey. And we all go through things. And it's nothing wrong with getting help. It's more people that deal with things maybe like you in a similar situation, you don't even realize it. And sometimes it's just a matter of finding that community and finding that support that allows people to kind of open up more and really embrace getting that help that they need. So I definitely want to be more of a resource for helping people, because I think that legacy is important. That was one of the last things that me and my dad talked about before he transitioned, was legacy, is what kind of impact do you want to leave on this earth. My dad was able to touch people on, 5-6 continents, over 50 countries, in different facets of life, whether it was that social worker, whether it was, him as a football coach, like he was able to just touch people and help people. And I just want to also have that same kind of impact.
Speaking of your dad, and I meant to bring this up sooner, one of the quotes you said your dad used to say to you all the time was, "Stay up, dude." And I think that is just, I think it's such a powerful and positive quote, just to remember. How does that help you now in this season of your life?
I mean, it's a simple quote, but it means so many things, right? And so for me, it's more so like, stay aware, stay present, stay focused, keep your mind centered. Don't allow your mind to drift off into negative thoughts. Keep yourself up. Stay mindful. Stay cheerful. Stay, honest, right? And I know that's not realistic to think we're just going to be these happy-go-lucky people all the time, but it's more so to focus on the positive and the love, as opposed to the negativity and the pain and frustration, right? Don't allow that types of like resentment and things like that. Like don't dwell in that. Don't sit in that. Allow yourself to feel it, talk it out, get it out. That's what therapy is for. And then you say, all right, cool. I felt that. I got it out. Now we off that. We on to we moving forward. And you keep moving. So yeah, that's what stay up for me is.
Love it. Love it. So you said that you want to be a resource to people and you want to support people through mental health. So how can people get in contact with you?
Hey, I'm on all socials at I am Kid McFly. You can, you don't even got to say specifically you're reaching out for mental health. Just you can be like, hey, let's link up, let's chop it up, let me bounce some ideas off of you. Or if you want to be open and honest and just say like, hey, I understand you were dealing with some things. I've dealt with some similar things. I just need somebody to talk to. Just holler at me. I just need somebody to talk to just listen. I can easily just be a wall. You can just talk. I won't give back the feedback or the advice unless you want it. But if you just genuinely need a space to just sit down and just get it out and listen, I'm all the more than willing to help. I can direct you in the direction of getting some resources, getting some help, people to talk to. I just want to be a beacon of resources for people, who want to seek that help. And again, all socials at I am Kid McFly.
Thank you. Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you so much for being here and being so real about your grief and what it's looked like for you. I think a lot of people, especially men, will find comfort in hearing your story and realizing that strength doesn't mean silence. You've reminded us that grief doesn't have to hold us back. It can grow us, shape us, and push us to see life differently. And I love how your father's words, "Stay up, dude," still guide you to this day. It's a reminder to stay grounded, stay alert, and keep your faith steady, even when life gets heavy. To everyone listening, thank you for joining another episode of the Grieving Journey podcast. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook or email us at thegrievingjourney@gmail.com if you'd like to share your story. Until next time, give yourself grace, trust God's timing, and stay up. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you for joining us on the Grieving Journey podcast. If you know someone who could benefit from this show, share it with them. You can listen to the Grieving Journey podcast on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. Stay connected with our community on social media. Until the next time, remember, you're not alone, and healing takes time. Keep walking this path with courage and compassion. Take care.